Hello guys and welcome, it is ThatSrb2DUDE here today bringing you, finally, another Splatoon 2 video where I'm going to do the patch comparisons with version 3.1 and version 3.2. I will then talk about my overall thoughts of how this patch has came about, because you know I've spent like a couple days trying to think and have like, some sort of conclusion of the patch. And now I can finally say that I have finally come to a conclusion. But anyways, let's get to the, the comparisons. Let's see what is different in version 3.2. So starting with the Splatoon, there is now an expanded radius of ink coverage for shots that impact the floor when shooting downwards. And there's also an increased damage dealt to the Rainmaker barrier by roughly 10%. For the Splattershot Junior, you now have a special ink tank that gives you a 10% increase of ink capacity. For the Aerospray, there's also now an expanded radius of ink coverage for shots that impact the floor while shooting downwards. For the Splashomatic, while jumping, you now have 100% accuracy, so you can jump to your heart's content. For the Lunar Blaster, there is now a decreased shot variability when shooting immediately after jumping by roughly 20%, basically meaning that the Lunar Blaster is 20% more accurate while jumping. For the L3 Nozzle Nose, there is now an increased movement speed while shooting by roughly 11%, as you see in version 3.2. I get to the first starting point faster than version 3.1. For the H3 Nozzle Nose, there is now a little sound that plays when you get all 3 shots hit onto an opponent. Have a listen. And there's also an expanded radius of ink coverage when shots hit a wall. For the Squeezer, it is now 6 frames faster to go into the automatic mode while holding down the trigger for the Squeezer. In the slowdown clip, you can see that the Squeezer goes into auto-firing mode much faster in 3.2. For all rollers in the game, including the Carbon Roller, Splat Roller, Dynamo Roller, and Flingzer Roller, there is now a decreased ink consumption when inking the ground with the roller while moving at top speed by roughly 33%. This means basically you can now roll for much longer periods of time if you are moving at top speed. For the Squiffer, the mid-air charge speed for this weapon is now the exact same as if you were charging while standing on the ground. For the Elite 4K, there is now an increased damage dealt around the Rainmaker barrier at fully charged shots by roughly 15%. For the Hydra Splatling, there is now increased damage dealt by a fully charged shot by 35 damage to 40 damage, and from partial charge, it is now from 28 damage to 32 damage. For the Undercover Brother, after splatting or getting an assist on an opponent, if you have broken your Brother Shield, you will now immediately regain your Brother Shield once getting one of these 2 achievements. For the Rapid Blaster, there is now a decreased radius damage by exploding shots by roughly 6%. This also includes the Rapid Blaster Pro. For the Ballpoint Splatling, there is now a decreased charging speed when in mid-air or out of ink by roughly 33%. For the Dually Squelches, there is now an increased ink consumption when shooting by roughly 20%. For Point Sensors, there is now an increased initial speed by roughly 20%. Because of this, there is also now increased throwing distance. For Auto Bomb, there is now a decreased ink consumption from 70% to 55%. There's also a decreased maximum target tracking time by 1.5 seconds, and also a decreased damage radius when exploding by roughly 7%. For Tensor Missiles, when locked down to a single target, 10 missiles will be launched at once and will strike the area around the target. When 2 or more targets have been locked, 5 missiles will now be launched, and the span of time between each launch has been decreased. When the Gear Ability Special Power-Up is equipped with Tensor Missiles, the radius of ink coverage is now been increased. Tensor Missiles can now lock onto the Rainmaker shield. There's also been a decreased damage dealt with each missile to the Rainmaker shield by at least roughly 50%. And lastly, the position of the locked indicator when targeting players have been made easier to see how many missiles will be launched towards yourself if you are being fired with missiles. For Splashdown, there has now been an increased radius of turfed ink when using this. For Inkjet, there's been increased visibility of the marker indicating where Inkjet users will return to after its effect has ended. There's also been a gauge added to this marker to know when the Inkjet user will return. So that is pretty much all the patch notes that we have received, all the buffs and nerfs that have changed Splatoon 2, and I have finally come to the conclusion of what I think is going to be the successes out of this patch. So, starting off with, I guess, the Sploosh-o-matic. No one really cares about that, nothing really changed with it. The Splasher Jr., there is a couple secrets with this entire change, and I'm going to actually address this in another video, so hold on tight, I might actually be able to get this video out tomorrow. The Splash-o-matic having no RNG while jumping is pretty huge. It's now a perfectly accurate weapon, so if people want to try and pick it up as a more aggressive weapon opposed to a 10 attack, then this definitely would be a nice choice to use. So probably one of those weapons that are probably going to get a little bit more use. Maybe not too much, since dualies in this current day is the thing that are, I guess, ruling the meta. With the Aerospray, nothing really matters about that. Luna Blaster, increased accuracy for that. Like, I've tried out the Luna Blaster myself. I mean, like, you could probably see it in this gameplay. This is big. I honestly gotta say the Luna Blaster is much better than it was before, considering, like, before it had the most random aim, but now it feels more consistent in a way. So I won't be surprised if more people start picking up the Luna Blaster as maybe another type of Slayer weapon. I honestly gotta say it's a little bit harder to use than a 10 attack until you actually really understand how it's used, since I guess there's a little bit of lag in with the Luna Blaster, but once you get, I guess, the grips with that, then it should not be a problem. For the L3 Nozzle Nose, I don't think the movement speed is gonna, like, do too much with it. So I don't really have much to say about it. Same with the H3. I mean, the H3 didn't really get anything other than you make another sound with it. The Squeezer, though, I do like the change to the Squeezer, but I don't think it's enough to really, like, push it to the next level. Like, the Squeezer is one of those weapons where you are greatly rewarded for accuracy, so the most accurate person using this weapon is definitely gonna have the best time with this weapon. So this, of course, gives it a nice buff, go into auto mode much more seamless, so it's definitely a much better painting weapon in that regard. Rollers, they only just get more efficiency, not really much to say about that. Classic Swiffer, I'm not too sure if that's going to change too much. E-Liter, that's not going to change. Hydra Splatling, I don't really think that's going to change too much either. Maybe might be a better pick for Rainmaker. We only have one Hydra Splatling. We don't know about the other Hydra Splatling kit, so I guess maybe if we do receive it, then that'll be cool. The Undercover Brother is a really nice buff. It makes it more aggro in a sense, since if you get an assist or a kill, then you are rewarded with another shield, so you can kind of just continue what you're doing. So it makes it a little bit more usable, because beforehand, before you get your shield, like, broken in, like, a second, it's just like, why would you use the Rapid Blaster? Much needed nerf. In this time of the meta, Rapid Blasters are kind of declining a lot. I mean, of course, getting this nerf, so I guess you're able to dodge Rapid Blasters much better than before. But it's also the thing because of how much dualies are now becoming more popular. So using, I guess, dualies against Rapids, it's a lot harder for Rapids to actually secure kills on people. The Ballpoint Splatling has been respectively nerfed really hard, since its charge time while, I guess, recovering ink, it was so much faster, and it just made it pretty stupid of, I guess, how this weapon worked. But now it's a lot better, or I should say it's a lot fairer now, because I feel like this weapon takes a lot of skill, and it takes a lot of accuracy, of course, when you're shooting in the firing mode. So if somebody actually got to that level where they aren't missing shots, then it would have been disgusting to have the, I guess, the charge speed that it had before. So dually Scorches, at this point in time, I don't see a decline in them, even though it has an ink consumption nerf. It's just to, I guess, stop people from rolling all over the floor and stuff like that. So, you know, fair enough. I don't mind it. For the sub-weapons, point sensors and water bombs, they don't really see too many significant changes. At this point in time, they aren't being, like, used excessively more since, I guess, the previous patch. Maybe time will tell, maybe we'll see a change, but I don't think the meta will change surrounding these two sub-weapons. And now, going on to Tensor Missiles, which received the biggest buff during this patch. And we've had a week to, like, test them out and really, like, get into how they work now. And I've got to say that I am fairly neutral about this right now. It's like the Tensor Missiles haven't got any better. Like, I don't see it shifting the meta too much right now, just of, I guess, the new changes and stuff. But at this point in time, it is still very, very easy to dodge the Tensor Missiles. I was hoping for the special power-up buff of the Tensor Missiles ink radius to be much wider than it is, but I've put like a bunch of special power-up and it doesn't really do too much, just gotta say. It's mainly because of, like, I guess, how spread out the Tensor Missiles are, or how spread out they don't become, because Because if you lock onto one target and use a bunch of special power-up and use it on one target, not a lot of... Considering how the Tensor Missiles land around that target, it's not very spread out. So in the end, there isn't exactly much ink spread to be, I guess, placed down once the Tensor Missiles are launching to the person. I definitely think it's going to be good for Rainmaker just to get like an instant pop if necessary, but at this point in time, Tensor Missiles, they're just really easy just to dodge, because it's just like, because it technically receives a nerf at the same time where the, I guess the lock indicator, if you're being locked onto Tensor Missiles, you can see the amount of missiles coming towards you, so it kind of tells you, okay, this is like how much I need to move to dodge all the missiles. So in the end, do I really think Tensor Missiles are shifting the meta or just slicing it right in half? Is it necessary to always be running Tensor Missiles on people's competitive comps and stuff like that? And right now, my conclusion is, I don't think so. I feel like the current special combinations you can do are still the best, in my opinion. I feel, if you're using Tensor Missiles, I feel like it pairs up really well with Stingrays, so... In things like tower control, where Stingray is pretty much very necessary, and also in Rainmaker, I mean, I think pairing the two can maybe make a difference of doing something. It gets your opponents moving quite a bit. So that's really my opinions on Tensor Missiles right now. Not too much change with, I guess, how the metas shift, but it's definitely a lot stronger than what it was once before. The Splashdown just paints more, which is, I guess, it's good for Splashdown, but it can still should be shot out this guy really easily. Just gotta get good at that if you're wondering how you want to take one out. Go watch my video for that. And the inkjet visibility right now is super helpful for people that are using inkjet and you're wondering when they're going to fall down. And it's also a lot nicer that it's easier to... So just checking overall in this patch, I don't think it's Tensor Missile Mania anymore. Tensor Missiles are definitely more useful. I don't think it's going to be used much more extensively than for the previous patch. So overall, that is my conclusion of the current patch. We're pretty much running into a dualies meta. A lot of people are starting to pick them up, so definitely end parry dualies are very strong. The dualies sculptures are getting more play. Rapid blasters are starting to decline a little bit, and Tensor Missiles are getting a little bit more use, but not too much more use than before. Anyways, hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Sorry that this video took a little bit longer than usual to come out. I really just did not have my thoughts ready to, I guess, release to the public yet, and really let people know what I really think about this patch, but this is pretty much what I think about it now, and that's all I really got to say. So, hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Please, if you did, please like, favorite, comment, and subscribe to the channel if you have not already. Follow me on Twitter and Twitch, both in the description below. Do it for both if you're feeling generous. As always, guys, this has been ThatSrb2DUDE, and I shall see you guys in a future video.